Before we begin, imagine standing before an apex predator bred only for war, and seeing a human rest his head against its chest like an old friend. If you want more powerful sci-fi stories like this, hit like, comment your favorite apex predator below, and subscribe for more HFY tales every week. The grand hall of the Galactic Dominion Citadel thrummed with the low hum of repulsor generators and the faint crackle of electrified restraint pylons. High above, banners bearing the sigils of ruling species hung from obsidian arches. Each banner shifted in the artificial breeze, rustling like dry leaves under a storm. At the center of the polished titanium floor stood the war bears. They loomed taller than any living creature in the chamber, massive beasts clad in plated armored fur that rippled with subtle muscle shifts beneath. Their paws, each the size of an adult human torso, ended in retractable titanium claws engineered to pierce mechanized infantry plating. A low, guttural growl rolled from their chests as their golden red eyes scanned the gathered lords and strategists. Rows of fanged teeth jutted from jaws large enough to bite a combat drone in half. Every alien in the hall kept a safe distance, forming an uneven circle around the predators. The war bears were bred by the Dominion's prime genetic houses for a singular purpose: conquest. Once unleashed, they tore through fortifications and infantry lines with unstoppable momentum, devouring enemy soldiers and dissolving armored divisions in minutes. The air stilled when the chamber doors slid open with a hiss of vacuum seals disengaging. A lone human stepped in. He was tall by human standards, with broad shoulders clad in matte black combat weave layered under lightweight carbon titanium plates. His dark hair fell just above his brows, eyes focused forward with quiet intensity. Each stride was controlled, balanced, and silent. No clatter of boots, no rattle of gear. Only confidence. His name was Cale Roran. The lords whispered among themselves, mandibles twitching, throat sacs pulsing, scaled tails flicking in agitation. No human had ever walked into the presence of war bears alive, let alone alongside them without restraints. Cale kept moving until he stood before the largest of the bears, a beast easily 12 feet tall at the shoulder with a scar running from its right eye down its cheek. The war bear towered over him, breathing out in deep rhythmic huffs that smelled faintly of metallic blood and protein synthesis compounds. Its massive shoulders rose and fell like black hills beneath shifting moonlight. Cale removed his armored gloves with deliberate slowness, each movement precise, revealing calloused palms marked with faded burn scars and plasma nick lines. He exhaled once, steadying his breath, and lifted his right hand to place it gently against the war bear's chest. A collective gasp swept the hall, echoing against vaulted ceilings. The bear's growl deepened into a rolling rumble that vibrated the floor under Cale's feet, but it did not move. Its claws flexed against the titanium tiles, scoring faint scratches into the polished surface, but its ears flattened backward in what could only be described as submission. Cale let his hand remain there, feeling the beat of its massive heart under layers of engineered muscle and armored fur. His eyes softened. For a moment, he was no longer in the citadel of the Dominion, no longer surrounded by scheming lords and terrified strategists. He was back on that shattered battlefield 6 months ago, kneeling beside this very bear as it bled out onto burnt soil under a blackened sky. He had found it near death, surrounded by charred corpses and twisted drone wreckage. Its breathing had been ragged, blood bubbling from its flared nostrils, thick with nanite decay as its body tried to rebuild torn tissue faster than it was dying. Its eyes had rolled in agony, its claws scraping weakly against scorched rock. The Dominion strike team had retreated the moment the bear fell, leaving it to die. No one dared approach a war bear in its death throes. But Cale had stepped forward, plasma rifle slung behind his back, his hands raised in silent offering. He could still smell the burnt protein packs he had emptied into its jaws, still feel the feverish heat radiating off its massive skull as he'd pressed a coolant injector to its neck to stabilize its vital systems. The war bear's heart thundered under his palm, steady and powerful. Its gaze locked onto Cale's face with an intelligence few in this chamber would ever understand. Behind them, a guard's pulse rifle clattered slightly as his hands trembled, finger brushing the trigger. The bear's head snapped around instantly, fangs bared in silent warning. The guard froze mid-motion, a whimper escaping his lips. Cale lowered his hand and stepped closer, placing his forehead gently against the bear's chest. Its growl subsided into a quiet rumble, the vibrations resonating through his skull like distant thunder rolling across an endless plain. His eyes closed, shutting out the golden glow of Dominion lighting and the silent horror of alien lords watching him. He felt safe. The bear's scent was familiar. Musk and metallic blood, ozone from bioelectric pulses deep within its armored hide, and a faint, almost soothing warmth from its artificial circulatory coolant systems. Its chest rose and fell slowly. For all its monstrous power, it was breathing gently now, as if afraid to disturb him. Around them, the alien lords of the Dominion reeled in silent disbelief. Lord Vectal, the towering insectoid strategist with obsidian chitin armor and serrated mandibles, felt an unexpected shiver race down his dorsal nerve cluster. His multifaceted eyes widened as he realized the scale of what they were witnessing. This human, he was not controlling the war bear through force or neural implants. There were no restraint collars, no electroshock modules embedded in its neck. The creature was free. It could rip him in half with a flick of its claws, yet it remained still, its entire world focused on the man leaning into its chest. Vectal flicked his secondary mandibles in agitation, whispering into his throat comms to the other council strategists. Their quiet, panicked conversation buzzed across encrypted channels. No one had ever tamed a war bear. They could be conditioned, driven to attack with pain or stimulant overloads, but true taming, forging a bond that eclipsed programmed loyalty, was biologically impossible. Until now. Kale opened his eyes and turned slightly, resting his cheek against the bear's thick fur. He met Vectal's gaze across the hall, unflinching. His eyes were calm, almost serene, and held none of the fear or arrogance the lords expected. Only quiet certainty. The bear rumbled again, a low, vibrating sound that was neither growl nor purr, but something far deeper. Something born of trust. Kale exhaled softly, feeling the warmth of that massive body seep through his cheek and into his chest. The war bear shifted its massive paws slightly, claws retracted, resting it gently beside him on the polished floor. In that moment, Kale felt its acceptance, felt its silent promise. No harm would come to him here. Not while it lived. Not while its heart still beat with unstoppable power. And across the echoing chamber, every alien lord understood the same truth. This human was untouchable. The hall remained silent except for the low, rumbling breaths of the war bear. Kale kept his cheek pressed against its chest, feeling its massive heart beating in a rhythm as steady as a war drum in the dark. The bear shifted slightly, angling its body so that its bulk blocked him from the council's direct line of sight. It was not a conscious calculation of intimidation. It was instinct, to shield him from threats. 2 Dominion guards in polished gray armor stepped forward, pulse rifles raised. Their movements were crisp and practiced, but the scent of their fear carried across the cold air. The war bear's ears flicked, catching the sound of hydraulic joints whining under tension. Its lips curled back, exposing rows of serrated fangs that glistened under the hall's white-gold lighting. A snarl erupted from its chest, a sound so deep it seemed to vibrate Kale's bones. The guards froze mid-step. One of them, a tall saurian with emerald scales and crimson eye ridges, felt his knees tremble. He tried to speak, but only a strangled hiss escaped his throat. The bear's snarl deepened, rumbling like an earthquake building in the distance. Kale did not move. His breathing remained calm, steady, measured. He lifted his hand again and placed it firmly against the bear's chest, fingers sinking slightly into its thick fur. "Easy," he whispered, voice low and even. "They're not worth it." The war bear's eyes flicked down to him. Its breathing slowed, the snarling quieting to a deep growl that still echoed across the silent hall. The guards lowered their rifles half an inch, but their eyes never left the bear's massive jaws. Kale closed his eyes and let the memories come. He remembered sitting beside the bear's massive head 6 months ago, in a collapsed ruin half buried under slagged starship hulls and cracked stone pillars. The night had been cold, filled with drifting ash and falling embers from orbital bombardments still raging beyond the horizon. The bear's blood had pooled beneath it, thick and dark, laced with silvery nanite threads as its internal systems tried desperately to close torn arteries. It had tried to rise once, dragging itself upright with trembling forearms, but collapsed again under its own weight. Its massive head had slammed against the broken tiles, a rattling whimper escaping its throat. That sound had nearly broken Kale's composure. He'd seen war horrors beyond counting, but there was something primal and devastating in the helpless pain of a creature bred only to conquer. He had crouched beside its head, armored knees grinding against rubble shards. Slowly, with shaking fingers, he had unsealed his ration packs. Protein bricks, rich in synthetic meat extract and amino fortifiers, crumbled easily under his grip. He fed them to the bear in pieces, gently prying its jaws open despite the tremors in his own hands. Each time its teeth closed, he prayed it wouldn't be his last moment. But it chewed and swallowed, eyes half closed in exhausted agony. Through the long hours of night, Kale sat with it, administering coolant injectors to lower its fever and draining nanite clogs from its shattered leg. He had used every medfoam cartridge in his field kit, sealing lacerations that gaped wide enough to swallow his entire forearm. When dawn rose blood-red over the distant ridgelines, the bear still lived. Its breathing was ragged but steady. By the third day, when Dominion scouts had returned to confirm the bear's death, they found it standing beside Kale. Its claws were flexing against stone, teeth bared, eyes bright with rage and pain and something new, recognition. The scouts had retreated without a word. Kale never saw them again. The bear shifted now, snapping him back to the Citadel Hall. Its growl rose again when a council scribe, a wiry insectoid with delicate manipulators, attempted to approach. The bear bared its teeth with a savage crack of jaws, and the scribe recoiled so quickly he nearly tripped over his own robes. Kale's voice remained quiet but carried across the silent chamber. Enough. Instantly the war bear's snarl fell away. Its lips lowered to cover its teeth, though its eyes remained locked on the scribe with unwavering focus. Its massive body settled into stillness, muscles rippling like submerged steel cables relaxing under tension. Kale stepped back half a pace, keeping his hand on its chest, and turned to face the gathered council. Lord Vectal tilted his massive head forward slightly, mandibles clicking softly against each other. His multifaceted eyes studied the human with analytical precision, flickering faint green reflections across Kale's face. "You risk much, human," he said, his voice emerging as a buzzing rasp amplified by subharmonic vocalizers. "Do you believe your pet can protect you here? Before the might of the Dominion Council?" Kale's gaze remained steady. "He's not my pet." Vectal's mandibles twitched in agitation. "Then what is he, human?" Kale's hand rose to the bear's neck, brushing against the thick ruff of armored fur. "He's my brother." A ripple of whispers moved across the assembled lords. Kale felt the tension spike in the room, like a taut cable ready to snap under sudden force. The war bear shifted again, sensing his pulse quicken, and pressed closer to his side. Its massive forepaw thudded against the titanium tiles, claws flexing with metallic screeches that echoed across the vaulted chamber. Lord Vectal's secondary mandibles curled inward, a gesture of calculation. His thoracic plates shifted subtly, signaling private comms to his advisors. Kale ignored it. His attention remained focused on the bear. He raised his other hand and placed it along the creature's jawline, feeling the warmth radiating through its armored hide. The bear closed its eyes and let out a long, vibrating rumble that resonated through his entire body. Around them, the guards stood frozen. Not even the hum of their repulsor field emitters could mask the silence that settled over the hall like a living weight. Kale leaned forward again, resting his forehead against the bear's massive chest. Its breathing rumbled against his cheek, powerful and calm. He closed his eyes, listening to that deep, steady beat. It anchored him to something real, something beyond politics and conquest and shifting alliances. He felt its promise. Felt the certainty in its quiet presence. This creature, this war bear bred only to kill and conquer, would protect him to its dying breath. It would stand against armies for him. Tear apart starships. Silence entire halls filled with scheming lords. He opened his eyes slowly, lifting his head to look across the hall at Lord Vectal. "If you want to threaten me," he said, his voice carrying the quiet gravity of an approaching storm, "know that he will not ask for permission to destroy you." The war bear's eyes opened, golden-red irises flicking to each alien lord in turn. Its lips curled back slightly, revealing only the tips of its fangs, but the silent threat was clear. Its claws flexed again, scratching deeper grooves into the titanium floor beneath it. Lord Vectal's mandibles parted and closed twice before he found his words. "We will reconsider our approach." Kale said nothing. He lowered his head once more, resting his cheek against the bear's chest. The creature's breathing slowed, its entire body relaxing under his touch. Its massive shoulders lowered and the tension in its frame melted away. Around them no one moved. The silent truth of that moment burned itself into every witness's mind. Kale closed his eyes, letting the warmth and vibrations seep into him. For now he did not need to think about politics or negotiations or hidden threats. Here, with the war bear's heart beating beneath his cheek, he could simply exist. And everyone watching understood the same truth in that quiet, unbreakable bond. He was untouchable. Silence held the hall in a suffocating grip. Kale did not move from where he rested against the war bear's chest, feeling its calm radiating into his bones. The creature shifted its massive weight slightly, settling onto its haunches. Metal grated under its claws as it adjusted position, ensuring he remained shielded from every angle. Lord Vectal's mandibles twitched in measured calculation. His multifaceted eyes flickered, internal data scrolls reflecting against each segmented lens. Subdermal comms pulsed with encrypted exchanges between him and the Council's inner strategists. Kale felt their silent panic without needing to hear the words. To them this was an impossible problem. A human was never meant to hold such power within their chambers. War bears existed as weapons of terror, living battering rams for Dominion conquests. Their loyalty was coded into their synaptic pathways through generations of forced conditioning. They followed only genetic command chains, bred to obey Dominion handlers without hesitation or question. Yet here was a human male, unarmored above the waist, leaning calmly against a war bear who should have torn him apart in an instant. No neural harness bound it. No electric stimulators forced compliance. Only quiet devotion held the monster still. A ripple of unease spread through the council ranks. Lord Valen, a towering reptilian tactician with rows of horned ridges along his skull, stepped forward from the semicircle of lords. His armored tail scraped across the floor as he approached, each movement precise and slow to avoid provoking the bear's instincts. "This is unacceptable," Valen hissed, voice thick with contempt and poorly masked fear. "A human commanding a war bear undermines the Dominion's supremacy. We must reassert control before this anomaly spreads hope among lesser species." Kale lifted his head slightly, eyes calm as winter seas. "Is that what terrifies you, Valen? That others will hope?" Valen's jaws clamped shut, twin fangs clicking against each other in frustration. His yellow eyes flicked to the war bear, measuring, calculating. Kale saw the moment the decision crystallized behind those reptilian irises. Without warning, Valen raised a clawed hand and snapped his fingers. The sound cracked across the silent hall. From the shadows near the pillar bases, Dominion enforcers stepped forward, each clad in reinforced exoskeletal armor and wielding heavy disruptor carbines. Their muzzles rose as one, targeting Kale's chest. Before the first finger tightened on a trigger, the war bear exploded into motion. The roar that erupted from its chest rattled the council hall's structural supports. Its claws smashed down, tearing gouges through the titanium floor as it surged forward. Every enforcer was thrown back by the sheer wave of displaced air and psychic terror radiating off the apex predator. Armor servos locked under the enforcer's trembling limbs. One of them fell to his knees, weapon clattering from numb fingers as he screamed. Kale did not flinch. He remained standing where he was, eyes locked onto Valen, watching his scales blanch to a pale olive gray under his emerald plating. The war bear halted its charge just meters away from Valen, its massive jaws snapping shut with a metallic crack that reverberated through the trembling air. Slaver dripped onto the floor in sizzling strands, each droplet hissing against metal tiles as its acidic saliva burned micropits into the surface. Valen stumbled backward, his armored tail slamming into the pillar behind him. The impact echoed with a dull boom. His throat sac pulsed once in panic before he forced composure back onto his reptilian features. Kale spoke softly, his voice carrying with terrifying clarity. "You may order your enforcers to fire, Valen. Just know you will die before the first bolt reaches me." The war bear growled, a low, vibrating thunder that promised violence beyond comprehension. Its claws flexed against the floor, raking up glowing sparks from friction. Its eyes burned gold-red with bloodlight, locked onto Valen's throat. Across the hall, Lord Vectal raised his segmented hand in a swift, commanding gesture. The enforcers froze mid-motion. Their weapons lowered, barrel servos whining in protest as targeting matrices disengaged. Silence fell again, broken only by the ragged breathing of trembling soldiers. Valen swallowed hard, scales rippling across his neck. His claws curled inwards, scraping against each other with grating clicks. He tried to speak but only a thin hiss escaped his jaws. Kale turned slightly, pressing his hand against the war bear's flank. Its rumbling growl quieted instantly, replaced by deep, rhythmic breaths. Its ears flattened back, posture relaxing just enough to keep Valen pinned in place with silent threat. Lord Vectal exhaled slowly, his thoracic plates expanding and contracting with deliberate calm. "Enough. Valen, stand down. Enforcers, return to your posts." Valen's eyes flicked to Vectal, mandibles twitching with suppressed fury. He straightened slowly, regaining the semblance of dignity, and retreated back into the semicircle of lords without another word. Vectal turned his gaze to Kale, studying him with alien intensity. "This changes everything," he rasped softly, his subharmonic vocalizers resonating through the hall. "A human bonded to a war bear cannot be treated as a negotiator. You are a planetary-scale threat." Kale tilted his head slightly, meeting Vectal's gaze without flinching. "I didn't come here to threaten you. But you needed to understand that I'm not here at your mercy." Vectal's mandibles clicked in contemplation. His secondary eyes flicked to the bear, observing its calm as it pressed closer to Kale, massive head lowering slightly until its snout rested near his side in silent devotion. "The Dominion breeds war bears for conquest," Vectal said slowly. "We engineered them to break armies, to raise cities, to inspire absolute fear. And yet here it sits, beside you, as gentle as a bonded kin." Kale placed his hand along the bear's jaw, feeling the warmth and quiet rumble of its breathing. "That's your problem, Vectal. You only ever bred them to kill. You never learned how to earn their loyalty." The insectoid lord's mandibles curled inward, a silent gesture of grudging respect tinged with confusion. "What do you want, human?" Kale did not answer immediately. He lowered his head again, pressing his cheek against the bear's thick fur, feeling the slow, steady pulse beneath. Its scent filled his lungs, iron and earth and storm-charged ozone, grounding him against the shifting tides of politics and conquest. Finally he raised his gaze to Vectal, eyes calm and unyielding. "I want a future where no war bear is bred only to die for your ambitions. Where they can choose who to protect. And I want your oath that you will never again use them as weapons of terror." A ripple of shocked murmurs spread through the council. Valen hissed in disgust from the rear ranks. Vectal remained silent, his mandibles clicking softly in thought. "That," Vectal rasped at last, "is not a demand. That is a declaration of war against our entire genetic dominion program." Kale's expression did not change. "Then so be it." The war bear growled softly, not in anger but in agreement, as if echoing his resolve. For a moment, neither human nor alien moved. The vast hall seemed to narrow around them, silence compressing the air until every witness felt the weight of a choice they could not unmake. Vectal's eyes flicked once to the bear and back to Kale. "We will convene to discuss your terms." Kale inclined his head slightly, saying nothing. His hand remained against the war bear's flank, feeling the rise and fall of its breathing, the silent promise of its loyalty stronger than any forged treaty. The council chamber lights dimmed fractionally as security protocols rebalanced power draw. Enforcers stepped back into their posts, silent and watchful. Valen retreated into shadow, his scales dull with silent rage. And across the echoing hall, every lord understood the unspoken truth. They could kill him. But in doing so, they would unleash a wrath beyond anything their dominion had ever conceived. Kale closed his eyes and rested his cheek once more against the bear's chest. Its heart beat steady and calm beneath him. Its massive body radiated warmth and silent strength. He knew this was only the beginning. The council chamber remained dim and silent after Vectal's pronouncement. Kale kept his head resting against the war bear's chest, eyes closed, feeling the massive creature's breathing ripple through his bones. Each exhale from its cavernous lungs washed across his shoulders in a warm, rumbling gust that grounded him deeper in the moment. Lord Vectal's mandibles twitched with contemplative clicks as he studied the human. Behind him, Valen stood rigid, scales darkening to a bruised black with rage, his claws curling against each other until hairline cracks appeared in their chitin sheaths. Neither moved. The other lords remained silent, their eyes flicking from Kale to the bear and back again, seeing not a man commanding a beast but two living forces bound together beyond understanding. Kale opened his eyes slowly, lifting his head from the bear's chest. Its ears flicked forward at his movement, its massive golden-red eyes focusing entirely on him. The bond in that gaze was so intense it forced Vectal to look away for half a second before regaining his composure. Kale shifted, placing both hands on the bear's jawline, feeling the ridged bone structure beneath armored fur. He searched its eyes, and what he saw there made his throat tighten against unspoken emotion. He remembered the dying battlefield, the cold ashes drifting on poisoned winds, the smell of burning alloys and shattered earth, and this creature lying broken beneath the ruin of its own unstoppable rage. He remembered whispering words it could not understand but felt. Words of calm, of forgiveness, of quiet promises beyond blood and violence. Now, standing here before the most powerful alien lords in known space, Kale realized that moment had forged a bond deeper than any command chain or breeding directive could ever achieve. The war bear pressed forward slightly, its broad snout bumping gently against his chest. The contact was almost playful, an affectionate nudge no Dominion scientist would ever believe possible. Kale exhaled a quiet laugh under his breath, his smile small but real. Lord Vectal spoke again, his subharmonic vocalizers humming with careful precision. Do you truly believe your compassion will overcome a millennium of genetic conquest programs, human? Kale turned to him, the smile fading into calm resolve. No. But I know his loyalty to me will. Valen hissed under his breath, a sound like searing steam. Then you are a fool. Your death will be remembered only as a failed rebellion. The warbear's ears flattened back at Valen's words. Its lips curled away from daggered teeth, and a low growl rumbled from its chest, vibrating the air with the promise of violence. Kale placed his palm against its cheek, and the growl subsided instantly to a deep, rumbling purr. Kale took a single step forward, standing directly before Vectal. The towering insectoid's mandibles twitched in faint apprehension, despite his stoic posture. Kale looked up at him, unflinching. Understand this, he said, his voice quiet but cutting through the air like a drawn blade. If you try to enslave warbears again, I will unleash him upon your worlds. And he will not stop until your genetic dominion programs are burned from history. Vectal's eyes narrowed, each lens focusing to a pinprick before dilating again. For a long moment no one spoke. The humming of repulsor generators along the walls felt suddenly deafening in the silence. The warbear shifted behind Kale, rising slowly onto its hind legs. Its full height blotted out half the chamber's golden lights, casting a vast shadow that engulfed Kale in a silhouette of unbreakable protection. The creature's massive chest expanded as it drew in a breath that rattled banners high above. Then it roared. The sound was thunder and hurricane, earthquake and avalanche all in one. Banners tore free from their iron hooks, fluttering down in shredded pieces. Enforcers fell to their knees, covering their ears in agony. Some screamed, clutching at their helmets as internal comms overloaded from the sonic assault. Valen recoiled backwards, slamming into a pillar with such force the impact cracked the stone. Even Vectal flinched, his thoracic plates rattling with involuntary fear. Kale did not move. He stood within that roar as if standing within a cleansing storm, his eyes calm, his posture relaxed. His presence anchored the bear's rage, channeling it into a singular, unbreakable truth. When the bear's roar faded into a deep-chested growl that reverberated through the trembling walls, the silence that followed felt like the world itself holding its breath. The war bear lowered itself back onto its forepaws with deliberate slowness. Its eyes flicked to Kale, and its massive head pressed against his shoulder with a quiet, rumbling exhale. The creature's entire bulk relaxed against him, as if resting after a hard-won battle. Kale raised his hand and brushed his fingers along its fur, feeling its warmth and the subtle vibration of its low purr. He turned his gaze back to Vectal, finding the Lord staring at him with a mixture of awe and fear no alien mask could fully conceal. This is not conquest, Kale said softly. This is loyalty freely given. Something your dominion will never understand. Vectal's mandibles clicked in resignation. He lowered his gaze, the council chamber lights reflecting across his chitin plates in fractured gold. What would you have us do, human? Kale exhaled slowly, feeling the bear's warmth seep into his bones, grounding him in certainty. End the breeding programs. Release the war bears to their own worlds. Let them live beyond your factories and slaughter fields. And you will have peace with me. Valen lurched forward, scales rippling with fury. This is madness. You. The warbear's eyes snapped to Valen, and it snarled with such sudden ferocity that the reptilian lord stumbled backwards, his tail thrashing in panic. His throat sac pulsed in a silent whimper as he clamped his jaws shut. Kale ignored him, his gaze locked only on Vectal. For a long, silent moment, the insectoid lord said nothing. Then his mandibles twitched outward in a gesture of surrender. We will convene the genetic houses. Kale inclined his head, his hand never leaving the bear's fur. Do that. And know that I will return to see your promises kept. He lowered his forehead against the war bear's massive chest once more. Its heart beat in calm, unbreakable rhythm beneath his skin. Around them, the lords watched in silent dread as the apex predator closed its eyes, rumbling softly in a sound that was not a growl, not a threat, but something deeper. Something content. A purr born of absolute trust. In that quiet moment, with his head pressed against the creature's chest and its massive bulk sheltering him from the world, the final truth settled across the Dominion chamber like a falling star through silent dark skies. They watched the human rest his head against the war bear's chest, and knew beyond doubt that he was untouchable.